My mother kicked me out to focus on her new family, and later asked for college money for my siblings when she found out I was successful. To give some context, my mom had me when she was 20. My biological father was never involved. He never wanted children. She told me that because they had only been dating a few months when she became pregnant, she gave him the option to leave. He did, and they never spoke again. She chose not to pursue child support, and he refused to pay. In a way, it was convenient for both of them. Thankfully, my grandparents supported her fully, which allowed her to finish school and find work. She dated a few men when I was young, and eventually began dating Harry, a coworker, when I was about 8. They dated for over 3 years before getting married. While we weren't very close, Harry and I got along well enough. 4 years after their marriage, my mom became pregnant again. Everyone was happy, including me. Looking back, I probably should have anticipated what might happen, but I was too focused on the idea that my mom would always support me. I hoped she wouldn't leave me, given all she had endured raising me alone. After she married Harry, she naturally distanced herself from me, and we drifted apart. I thought it was temporary. During her pregnancy, I tried to be supportive, but she seemed to get more irritated whenever I was around. To avoid conflict, I kept my distance, but apparently not far enough. 6 months after she gave birth to twins, my mom and Harry called me for a serious talk. They told me they couldn't keep me in the house now that they had 2 children. Since I had just turned 16, legally, they couldn't just throw me out. They framed it as a financial necessity, emphasizing the burden of supporting a large family on their modest income. Until that point, I hadn't realized it could be so difficult for 2 adults, a teenager, and 2 kids to live on the salary of 2 web engineers. I could tell they just wanted me gone. I offered solutions, including getting a job, but my mom insisted she needed to reserve resources for the twins. She said the children deserved her support more than I did. That was enough for me to realize I wasn't wanted. I left without being given a specific place to go, feeling forced into the situation. My grandparents welcomed me, though they were focused on helping the twins. At 16, I got a part-time job, since I couldn't fully rely on my aging grandparents financially. Over the years, I saw my mom and Harry occasionally, but they rarely asked about me. When we did meet, their behavior was formal, as if they didn't miss me, even though it was sad. I knew I had to keep moving forward. When it was time for college, I had to rely on friends for help settling in. My mom and Harry declined, choosing to save money for the twins. I took out a student loan, with a relative co-signing. I worked throughout college to stay on top of payments and build financial stability. My mom and I spoke very little during that time, and only my grandparents attended my graduation. After college, I lived independently and managed expenses like groceries, rent, and utilities. Over time, I advanced professionally, eventually reaching a senior management position at the same organization where I started my career. Despite little support along the way, I achieved a comfortable position. Recently, my mom learned I earn well, but even after my success, she didn't reach out to congratulate me, despite being encouraged to do so by a family member. Recently, my mother and Harry came to my home, insisting on talking to me. I should clarify, I haven't spoken to her since I started college. I blocked her everywhere and intentionally kept her out of my life after graduating because I didn't see any reason to hope she would change. She didn't seem affected by it, and honestly, I doubt she even noticed. Only my grandparents stayed in touch, respecting that I didn't want to discuss her. I also didn't remain close with my uncle, so I didn't know my mom and Harry had been struggling financially for years. It wasn't until they showed up at my door explaining their difficulties that I realized how serious it had become. At first, I allowed them inside, hoping they were there to make amends. They began by mentioning my promotion, one of the youngest people in a high-ranking role at my company. Instead of congratulating me, They seemed upset that I hadn't shared the news with them. I was surprised they expected me to inform them at all, let alone announce my achievements. Then they expressed disappointment that I had shut them out of my life. They argued that they had prioritized their children over me, and I should have understood that as a teenager and not held resentment. They claimed I should have supported their decisions instead of relying on my grandparents. I couldn't understand why they assumed I would agree with being expelled from the house. From the start, they tried to make me feel guilty for being upset about being forced out so they could focus on their children. They recounted how tough the past few years had been, describing failed business ventures and financial losses, explaining they now needed money as the twins approached college age. Their purpose became clear. They were seeking financial help. They suggested that I could make it up to them by paying for my half-siblings' college tuition. Their attitude shocked me. I immediately told them no, pointing out that it was disrespectful to assume I could be coerced into supporting them. I reminded them they were the reason I had worked through college, funding my own education, while they prioritized the twins. I made it clear that they had no right to demand anything from me now. Instead, I suggested they use the money for the twins, exactly as they had planned to back then. When I asked them to leave, they became frustrated and tried to shift blame onto me, claiming I had been over-involved, irritable, and difficult as a teenager. I found that absurd. I was simply trying to maintain contact with my family while they drifted away. They even argued that I was ungrateful, comparing me to them and insisting this was my chance to make up for the past. I reminded them that as a child, I had no choice but to rely on them, and they had effectively pushed me out when they decided I was old enough to manage on my own. For the next 18 years, they largely ignored my existence. The conversation became heated and personal. I finally threatened to call the police if they didn't leave. My mother continued to bring up past sacrifices and accused me of being ungrateful, the one time she expected me to put others before myself. They left after more arguments, framing me as the villain. This encounter left me questioning myself. Am I expecting too much from my mother? Or is she simply trying to manipulate the situation? I decided to post on Reddit to get unbiased perspectives. Although I am confident in my stance, even though my uncle had good intentions, I reminded him that sharing my contact information with my mother was wrong and caused this confrontation. He apologized, acknowledging he shouldn't have involved himself, and admitted that if we wanted to reconnect, it should have happened naturally. His intentions were good, so I have no intention of cutting him out of my life. I want to clarify something about my uncle first. I would have been much angrier if his intentions had been different. He simply made an error, and in fact, he's the reason I was able to attend college in the first place. He was the only person willing to co-sign my loan. Without him, I might not even be in this situation. I made sure to let him know that his action was inappropriate, but I also emphasized that I appreciated his help. I believe we found the right balance. We're on good terms, and I don't hold anything against him. I also spoke with my grandparents about my mother's recent struggles. They agree with me and promise to encourage her to reconsider her behavior. They want to stay in touch with the other grandchildren, but recognize that it's unfair to put me through this. I believe their position is reasonable. Update 1. Since we last spoke about 9 days ago, my mother has been sending frequent emails, reminding me of everything she did while raising me. She seems to want me to feel indebted, though I was legally her responsibility and not doing her a favor. She only raised me when it was convenient, and she expelled me as soon as I caused what she considered trouble, citing the need to save for the twins' future. Now that the twins are adults, she should focus on them rather than trying to manipulate me. I decided to respond to her emails. I explained my perspective clearly, similar to what I wrote in my essay. As expected, she didn't take it well and called me ungrateful. I told her that name-calling wouldn't change the truth and that I no longer wanted contact with her due to her behavior. I blocked her email, and when she created a new one, I blocked that as well. I'll continue to do so until she respects my boundaries. Talking with her helped me gain closure. I had hoped they would come to congratulate me or make amends, but I realized they are not capable of genuine regret or accountability. I have fully given up on reconciliation. Update 2. Earlier this week, my mother appeared at my workplace, which was shocking and inappropriate. Fortunately, I wasn't there that day. When I spoke to her on the phone, I firmly told her that any attempt to come to my workplace would have legal consequences. I made it clear that she couldn't make demands and that my employer could take action if the situation escalated. After that, she left, and I haven't received further notifications. I plan to speak with a lawyer to understand what precautions I can take to prevent future incidents. Update 3. A few days ago, my mother was waiting outside my home when I returned from work. I immediately told her I would call the police if she didn't leave. She attacked me, causing my phone to fly out of my hands. I defended myself, and fortunately, my neighbors witnessed the situation and called the police. They helped restrain her until authorities arrived. I have decided to file charges and requested a restraining order. Harry has taken the children and moved in with his parents, challenging her behavior. She even got into a fight with him, showing the severity of the situation. Ultimately, she is responsible for her own issues. I am not going to feel guilty for prioritizing my safety. I'll have the restraining order in place soon, and I'm already exploring moving to a larger home, since this is an ideal moment to secure my independence. My mother has also been unpleasant to my grandparents, who now prefer to stay away from her. She has no one to blame but herself. I'm no longer worried about her behavior. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on more real-life stories happening around the world.